Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Let's begin right away with this outing of the Communication Minister, Issa Shurma Bakari, in a release today that has announced the liberation of a Tunisian and two Cameroonian engineers kidnapped on the 15th of March at a construction site along Kumba and Isangele in the southwest region of Cameroon. Issa Shurma Bakari, in a release this afternoon, stated that one of the Tunisian nationals called Khaled Tinsa, who was also kidnapped on that same 15th of March, was killed by the kidnappers and four of the attackers killed. He called it an attack by terrorists. The communication boss extends the head of state message of condolence to the Tunisian family and said that the government would not relent in the fight against the activities of what he qualified as terrorists in the two Anglophone regions of the country. And we are going to be talking about a fire disaster, a family here in the economic capital, Douala, that is preparing to spend their first night in the open air after their home was ravaged by flames. But before we come back to that, let us take a look at the day-to-day ordeals of inhabitants of Nomejo and Nemeyong in the Lome subdivision of the Opanyong division in the east region of the country that are crying for mercy. The two villages located in the heart of the forest are being duped of their forest riches by illegal exploiters. They are now calling on the government to intervene. Details with Sman Chikan Gabriel.
Nemeju and Nemeyong are two villages in the Lomie subdivision anxiously waiting for development, but they don't know when it will finally come. Nature has blessed the two villages with forest resources which are illegally exploited at the detriment of the Baka Pygmies and Bantus, who are the inhabitants of the two villages, and profitable to the exploiters of the forest products. According to Bazon Jema, who manages the Nemeju community forest, the forest which is being exploited covers 1,900 hectares of land. The mayor of Abombang is one of the exploiters of our resources. Because of his illegal acts, we had a problem since he went without paying a dime. Moving in the forest gave us the opportunity to see the richness of the forest at Nemeju and Nemeyong. At Nemeju, for instance, several species exist which are cherished by the population. Moabi is the name of this tree. It is a very important tree for us. If every tree is to be cut down, we can't permit that this particular tree is brought down because it is what we inherited from our forefathers. The tree contains medicine, oil, and its fruits nourishes us. According to information gotten from several non-governmental organizations, just a meter of Moabi tree is sold at 30,000 francs, and going by the official terms, it is at least 1 million francs CFA for it to be brought down. In complicity with some selfish natives and forest agents, exploiters have played on the intelligence of the minority inhabitants of the two villages to make away with their forest resources given to them. Due to the haphazard nature at which the forest resources are being exploited, the villages are left without any development, from social amenities to houses for them to live in. The population of the two villages now live like beggars instead of having a better living standard. Teachers sent to the two villages usually threaten to strike because of the little salaries they receive. The Minister of Nature Protection and Wildlife is called upon to save the forest resources which are being exploited illegally at Nemeju and Nemeyong.
Smanjikan Gabriel, they're reporting now a family residence at the Bedi neighborhood here in the Douala 5 subdivision has been razed by flames. The incident occurred that was late this afternoon, and the entire family would have to spend the night in the open. Before we come back to that report, let us now talk about the situation or the liberation of Professor Ivor Leketambo, who has spent his first night as a free man. He was released yesterday and ferried to the nation's capital, Yaoundé. The governor of the Southwest region, Bernardo Kaliabilai, confirmed the release of the 67-year-old who was picked up purportedly by pro-independence fighters in the BLM Southwest region of the country. Let's have the details of the report with EQUINOXE and Abonnez.
Professor Ivor Leketambo, chairperson of the Cameroon GC board, has had a splendid night in a comfortable apartment in Yaoundé after he was released Monday afternoon by his kidnappers. He exhaled a breath of relief following his immediate freedom from hands of unidentified gunmen, who, after kidnapping him early Saturday in Lebialem in the southwest region, allegedly demanded a ransom before his face could be seen again. This allegation, which has now gone viral, has been debunked by the pro-independent fighters. Circumstances surrounding Professor Ivor Leketambo's release thus remain unclear. Government is yet to make an official declaration whether a ransom has been paid before his release or not. Professor Ivor Leketambo is first government authority abducted and released ever since the Anglophone crisis took the kidnapped deviation. He is also first to be abducted in the southwest region, a case different from those of the divisional officer for Batibo Momo division of the northwest region and the northwest regional delegate for social affairs. This, as the whereabouts of both government officials is still unknown as they remain in captivity, with just little unhelpful information circulating about them.
And a geopolitician in the nation's capital has reacted following the liberation of Professor Ivor Leketambo, the board chair of the General Certificate of Education Board in the southwest region of Cameroon. According to Dr. Frank Ebogo, the mode of operation of the pro-independence fighters in the two Anglophone regions of the country is getting more and more complex, as EQUINOXE and Abonnez once again tells us in the following report.
Kidnapping of government authorities in Anglophone regions of Cameroon in recent days is very rampant amid militarization of both northwest and southwest regions. Latest of the abduction is that of Professor Ivor Leketambo, chairperson of the Cameroon General Certificate of Education Board. Even at this juncture, it is still difficult to identify who the perpetrators are, as most of the kidnapped cases have not recorded immediate claim of responsibility. Dr. Frank Ebogo, a geopolitician analyzing the situation, says it is complicated to conclude who carries out such an operation in the northwest and southwest regions.
Il est très difficile de savoir qui opère actuellement dans les régions du sud-ouest et du nord-ouest du Cameroun.
In the beginning, we saw secessionist groups revendicating for the division of Cameroon and the autonomy of Anglophone Cameroon. These groups defied government orders and carried out destruction on public structures and incited violence. But today, other groups have emerged, led by hardened criminals, to carry out advanced terrorist acts, like the abduction of government officials. In other cases, when government does not revindicate or react promptly for the liberation of personnel kidnapped, the unknown individuals demand a ransom accompanied by death threats.
On peut avoir deux trajectoires.
According to Dr. Frank Ebogo, the geopolitician, there could be two facts to be noted. The first being that those kidnapping government authorities for ransom could be separatist fighters who now lack financial resource to finance their activities. The second could just be hardened bandits who have exploited the crisis and the kidnapping twist of the socio-political impasse to hijack authorities of their functions to enrich themselves. Whether it is a separatist group or a gang of armed robbers abducting state officials for ransom for whatever objective, such an act remains severely punishable when a defaulter falls in the dragnet of security forces.
A family at the Bedi neighborhood, it is in the Douala 5 subdivision here in the littoral region of Cameroon, will have to spend their first night in the open air after their family residence was ravished by flames. The incident occurred this afternoon. The exact cause of the inferno, as Simon Jikangebro tells us, up to now remains unknown.
She is one of the victims at the family residence that was brought down by flames. At the time of the incident, she wasn't around. Seeing her house in a different state, out of shock, she drops down. It was 1 p.m. Tuesday afternoon. The inhabitants at Antremalam in Bedi are out in their numbers to stop a ravaging flame that have engulfed a family residence. According to the family head of the burnt residence, I was taking my bath while the children were sleeping in the parlor. Later, one of my kids came to inform me about fire in the room. As I stepped out, I saw a terrible flame, and since I had a bucket, I managed to fetch water. At the same time, alerted other neighbors to help. Even though the entire neighborhood managed to come out, the inferno destroyed every item in the house that is made up of 4 rooms, a kitchen, and a toilet. Elements of the Army Rescue Unit who arrived later aided in stopping the flames from spreading to nearby houses. For now, no major cause has been linked to the fire that has left an entire family without shelter.
Smanjikan Gabriel ending the report. Now, some parts of Douala are becoming filthy and unbearable for human habitation. Garbage heaps are abandoned even after trash cans are full. Our reporter Emerencia Konlak visited some streets here in the economic capital Douala and tells us in the following report that the situation has been going on for several months now. Her report.
For more than 6 months now, major streets in Douala have almost been transformed into refuge dumps with household waste abandoned by the hygienic and sanitation companies. At some dumping grounds, the trash cans are full and the population tends to empty household waste on the ground, thereby worsening the situation. Some Douala residents we spoke to said they are aware of the health complications they are exposed to. Some would even resort to the burning of the garbage, which is not an environment-friendly practice. This is happening at a time when workers at the lone hygienic and sanitation companies paralyze activities over unpaid salaries. This has adversely affected the entire population in the city. At the Isakam head office, management is positive that things will get better. The general manager, Michel Ngapanu, underscored the need for the recycling of waste, but raised the problem of financial constraints. In the meantime, the population of Douala will have to deal with the current filthy nature of the town.
On to another story. Students of GTHS Lum in the Mongo division of Cameroon have used the Open Door Day as a platform to present the problem of youth unemployment in Cameroon. Our reporter Rabiatu Aliyu tells us more in the following story.
Open Door Days in technical schools is an opportunity for students to portray their entrepreneurial skills. But the fear of some students to face the job market is an existing reality. This student is one of those who thinks that his academic know-how might not be fully exploited in the job market. He says that contractors and technicians are always hired from abroad to execute national projects. But the passion is still present in some of these students, like Kusi Rodrigue, a second cycle student specialized in bricklaying. He says he has always been inspired by his surrounding and considers bricklaying as the best career option. During this open door day at Lycée Technique Loom in the Mungo division, the talent in the dozens of youths present could be seen in the various stands where homemade slippers, beds, cupboards and other craft works were exposed.
L'enseignement technique, véritablement, c'est l'école de demain.
The principal of the institution, Madame Leah Martin, told the students that technical education is the best option in guaranteing a bright future. The DO for Loom, who presided over the ceremony, also encouraged the students not to relent in their fields of competence, irrespective of their challenges.
And in the second part of this newscast, deliberation of Professor Ivor Leket Tambo and the Tunisian national that was between yesterday and today, as well as the sitting of the Constitutional Council, are some of the topics that we are going to be talking about with our guest tonight, who is a senior barrister at law. We shall be right back in just a jiffy. Stay with us. Once again, good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this second part of the new senior barrister, Ashu Abo. Emmanuel, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mimi. Good evening, televiewers.
We thank you so much for your time. Barrister, we will begin right away with the sitting of the Constitutional Council. They yesterday ruled on the case of the Social Democratic Front against the CPDM. As far as the list of the CPDM in the West region of Cameroon is concerned, we are going to be having your general evaluation of the first sitting of the Constitutional Council since the members were put in place. What could be your evaluation as a senior barrister at law?
Well, I don't see anything special in what they did. They simply did the obvious. You take the case of this SDF petition against the CPDM list, wherein they claimed that somebody was inexistent. It only needed for this person to prove that, hey, here I am.
What about the outcomes of the rulings?
The rulings,
we saw 5 petitions were rejected, including that of the Social Democratic Front, and
yes,
one simply withdrawn by
yes,
the NUTP party.
The problem with election petitions is that most of the people who petition don't know what to do. So if you don't know how to present a petition, they'll be rejected. So that's why I said I don't see anything special.
So they were rejected because of the way they were presented?
Yes.
Not because the petitioners violated the law in one way or the other?
Well,
because we saw some of the petitioners were individuals, and it is violating the electoral code in Cameroon, barrister.
If you don't know what to do, then don't even go there, because this is a place where there is no joke. So if you don't have the local standard, don't go. Like what you're talking of is want of local standard. An individual stand there to say, I am challenging. No. Respect the law. And if you have the local standard, then you should have a good cause. Don't always think people time by saying this man that we are seeing does not exist. So you see, it's just anyway, like some people said, you cannot be calling baboon to sit on monkey's trial.
Another curiosity was the fact that the campaigns were already launched across the national territory, and 1 week after, the Constitutional Council still had to rule on some of the petitions, precisely one of that of the Social Democratic Front. It therefore means that SDF senators and CPDM senators were already on campaign while waiting for the Constitutional Council to rule. Is that not a void?
No, that is wrong, because if there are petitions, then the campaign cannot begin. They ought to suspend the campaign until all the campaigns ought to be suspended. Well, I say it's a flaw. They ought to suspend the campaigns so that after the petitions have been completely disposed of, then the campaigns proper can start. Because you cannot start campaigning while others are in court, and by the time they finish, they have a few days only to campaign, while you have had about 3 weeks or a month. That is not correct.
But we are aware that campaigns were ongoing.
We are aware. That's why I say it's a flaw.
Waiting for the
it's a flaw in the system. It's a flaw. They ought to have waited for the ELECAM.
So there are legal provisions that were violated.
Yes, ELECAM ought to have caused the launching of the campaign to be stayed until the petitions were all disposed of.
Talking about the election in general, you are not just a barrister, though you are equally an opposition leader in the country, the national president of the Reform Party. What, according to you, should be the chances, or could possibly be the chances of the opposition as far as the senatorial election is concerned?
Well, I don't think we should expect much of this senatorial election, because all I am seeing is the unfolding of the CPDM game plan, which is to maintain its obese, its ill-deserved majority in the Senate. Because if they had to go by the law, these senators who are going, these councillors who are going to elect the senators don't qualify to do that. The law says that councillors alone can elect senators for the putting in place of the Senate. After that, it is a regional representatives and the councillors who have to do that. So at this stage, this is the second mandate of the Senate. The senators ought to be elected not only by the councillors but also by the regional representatives. So we ought to have started with the regional elections first before going to council elections. So now we are going in just because CPD knows that if they were to go in for regional elections, their majority will be watered down. So they are cheating on other parties by going to elections with only the councillors.
Are you therefore saying that we are heading towards an all CPDM Senate? Are there no chances for the opposition parties that are going in? 8 of them going in.
We very well know that CPDM has allies. CPDM has allies, and they have always arranged with their allies to divide the seats. CPDM will not want to. They will not be comfortable having an all CPDM Senate. It will not go down well in the face of the international community that knows that Cameroon is far from being a democratic nation. So I think they are going to share the seats as usual with their allies. We shall not have only CPDM. We shall have some opposition parties inside.
We would only confirm that when we see the situation.
We are going to see.
So how do you see the voting process in the Tuang Lufon regions where we see tension, even though campaigns are ongoing?
Well, I feel very uneasy when it comes to that situation, because anyway it will be brought under control, because we have an electorate that is controlled. It's only the councillors, and councillors can well vote in a secured environment, because there are not many of them. Well, they can vote. They can be made to vote in a place where the voting is secured. For instance, they can be summoned to the council chambers where they can vote, and
so the government can be able to contain the situation.
It's possible.
Barrister, we would move right away to our next topic, which is the liberation of Professor Ivor Leketambo of more than 48 hours after he was picked up in the BLM of the southwest region of Cameroon. I would say that he was the last to be picked up, but the first to be released. How did you welcome the news of his release, Barrister?
Well, you see, I'm really surprised that the CPDM government does not seem to understand the language. When this gentleman arrested, they kidnapped the deal of Batibo. They sent a message. You see, I see this as a means of communication, because some members of some high top-level members of government keep saying that the Anglophone crisis is over. There is nothing. To show the government that they are mistaken, that something has to be done to actually solve this crisis, these fellows kidnapped the deal of Batibo. After that, they kidnapped a social delegate. Then, as if that were not enough, they said that they don't seem to be taking us serious. Let's take somebody who is a bit higher. Now they're waiting for Leke. But as I see it, it was not, the kidnapping of Leke was not really meant to last. It was just a signal that they're giving them. And I want to fear that after that one, we might be in for something else, something more drastic, because...
But he has been released.
He has been released. I see it as a means of communication. That is, the people are sending a message that, look, take us seriously, otherwise we are going to do the worst.
Like the Ojo politician in Yaoundé would say that it implies that the situation or the mode of operation of the pro-independence fighters in Anglophone Cameroon is more and more complex. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I am saying that what they are doing, they are simply expressing themselves. You see, because they don't have a radio station that is open to the whole country where they can go and stand and say, this is what we want. You see, people say actions speak louder than words, and by kidnapping people, certain category of people, they are sending a message to the government that wants to be behaving like an ostrich, bury the head in the sand and say there's nothing. They took the first, took the second, now they've taken a bigger man and say, okay, we are releasing him because our purpose is not to take him and keep, because he's an important person. If the government still doesn't do us anything, I think we'll be in for more trouble.
There is still a lot of doubts as to why he was released. Many are speculating that ransom was paid, Barrister, but up to now the government is yet to make an official statement. We even saw the outing of the governor of the Southwest region that indicated that, confirmed that he has been released, but it wasn't unclear whether a ransom was actually paid. What do you have to say about this?
I think...
But remember the SDO for Libya Lem rather, said that the kidnappers asked for ransom. But the government in the nation's capital, the government spokesperson is here to make an official statement on the situation. What do you have to say about that?
From what we have as information coming in from the field, contractual workers, contract workers on the Indian road were kidnapped and ransom was paid for their release. In fact, we have that evidence that people who are working on that road were kidnapped. We saw images. Their family said, yes, we paid 5 million francs for their release. So if talk of ransom comes up, it will be strange. Because these people seem to need money. They need money to operate and to live. So if they took money in Indian, I don't see why they will not take money in Libya. But as to whether the money was actually given to them, I don't know. But I know that it is possible that money went. It's very possible because they have taken money before.
Okay, from the situation.
They have taken money before. From the contract, one of the workers who is building the Mondema Road. They caught him and took money from him.
Was
his family.
The kidnapping of the Tunisian national, was it equally a message?
Of course. I want people to realize that this conflict is going international. You see, when you look at the Boko Haram case, it only came to the limelight when French nationals and Chinese were kidnapped. So when they kidnap a Tunisian national, it's just a signal that they say, look, we are starting with Cameroon, but if you don't want to give us the ear, show us where our leaders are, solve this thing, we shall handle any person who comes our way. So that is a clear signal.
Are you confirming that the pro-independence fighters, like the Minister of Communications says, are terrorists? Like, is that what you're saying? Well,
I have always had my position, and I say that these are people who are asking for more to get less. I don't consider them as terrorists. I think these are disrupting Cameroonians who are asking for more to get less. I can be proven wrong, but I want every person to prove me wrong, because I have people here who attack Cameroon embassies, burn down the Cameroon flag. They live with Cameroon passports. If they are people from a different area, if they want their own nation, why do you keep holding yourselves out as Cameroonians? They say Biya must go. Why should Biya go if you want your own nation? So I think that the real thing is that these are people who want their problems to be solved. And they are only using this rhetoric of independence to obtain what they want. I don't think any person really wants to have a different nation.
Thank you so much, Barrister. We hope to have you so much the time again.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Until we meet again, goodbye.